Hello, and welcome to the Always in Escrow podcast, where lifelong friends Colby Burchin and Serena Appel embark on a journey through the art of living in escrow, constantly evolving, relentlessly striving for more. Today, we're thrilled to welcome David Lethan and Madison Van Amstel of the Bering Sea Crab Fishermen's Tour. They are joining us to explore their stories as visionary guests. This is a space where abundance, adventure, and aspiration meet. Today, we'll uncover the strategies and insights that transform bold dreams into extraordinary realities. Let's elevate your journey, one inspiring story at a time. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
So, Serena, I know you know, this summer I took my family to Alaska and we had the privilege of going on their boat. And it was definitely the highlight of my whole trip. My three kids can't stop talking about it. They want to go back and get on the boat. It was very just powerful. So, I recommend it to everyone. And I'm so happy you both are on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
So, what inspired you to start the Bering Sea Crab Fishermen's Tour? How to become a world-renowned cruising experience?
Well, as a young boy, I had a dream of being a fisherman. I ended up in Alaska fishing over the years, 45 years of fishing up in Alaska. But it happened to be one day I'm in Ketchikan and I'm offloading halibut and the cruise ship pulls in. And I'm walking down the dock and I'm looking at these people come down the gangway and I'm thinking to myself, what are they doing up here? You know, this is Alaska. I mean, we got to be out on the water to see it because that's where I came from. And the guy pulled up in a tour boat and I looked over the side of the dock. I said, hey, what are you doing, man? He says, I got 95 people coming off of these cruise ships and I'm going to drive them around the bayfront, show them Ketchikan from the water. And I stood there and I actually got mad. I thought, are you kidding me? These people come from around the world and that's all you're going to give them? I've been in that water. I know about what's in that water. How about we take people out, catch it, pull it on board the water, show them things above the water, below the water, and share our stories that took us back to the ocean time and time again, even though you might not want to go. You've seen that. Some of you may have seen the show The Deadliest Catch. You might not want to go, but I tell you, what you see out there and experience out on that ocean is phenomenal. And we wanted to give the gift of adventure to guests in flat, calm waters. Don't be mistaken, it is flat, calm. We're on the inside islands of Ketchikan, Alaska, where we go out, we show them the wildlife above the water. Oh my God, the eagles. I mean, anytime in April, May, June, July, you may have 50 to 100 bald eagles dive bombing the boat to grab fish off the top of the water, the sea lions, the whales, the wildlife. But beyond that, we pull it up out of the water because we haul hooks and crab pots and prawn pots and octopus barrels, and guests can touch it. And if they haven't seen enough, then we bring the real fishermen out of the Bering Sea with their stories, the men and women that live the life. And then they share those stories freely. And the personal touch, I think for ourselves, is why we do it every day. And you might think it's always about us, but it's not. It's a lot about the guests. We want those guests coming to Alaska to remember Alaska, to feel it. Because if you feel it, you're going to bring your family and friends back. And that's what we want to give them, is the gift of Alaska that they would not normally expect on taking a tour. Okay, it's way more than a tour. I'm a fisherman, called it a tour, don't know why, but that's all that came to my mind when we started. It's actually an experience. So that was how we got started. And then from day one, I remember that first summer because I only had one crew that first summer and we struggled. We had 0 cruise ship support. None of the cruise lines picked us up as an excursion. And so our first tour, we had 5 guests, and I remember going out. And I thought, oh my God, I've got to ask somebody, one of the 5. And this lady that never got out of her seat, I came up to her, I said, I need to know what this experience was like for you. She says, I'm 57 years old from the Midwest, and it's one of the best things I've ever done in my life. I felt it, she felt it, and I knew, okay, hold the line. And from that day on, All the major cruise lines picked us up. We've been ranked as high as the #1 excursion in the world offered by cruise lines. Tour of the year every year that they used to give it out. Um, and it's actually changed our lives. So
It is unbelievable. You've created the gold standard of these types of tours. So, what can guests expect? Like they get onto the boat. How long does it take to get out to the waters? Tell us some details.
So it's a 3-hour excursion, and it offers a lot of variety. So we head out on the calm waters, and then everybody gets to kind of get up and wander around and check out the boat because you're on a real life Bering Sea king crab boat. Nowhere else in the world can you go onto that unless you're at a fishing dock. So we encourage guests to get around and see our home, which is the boat, and then we go into the history of the Aleutian Ballad, which the way that the dream came to be and using the actual boat and the history that it has, it's almost like an artifact, honestly. And then we head out into the waters. We haul the hook and line. We do the eagles, and then we move into our pots where everybody gets to hold as much as they want, or they can just observe as much as they want. It's very personal to the guest about what they want to get out of the experience. We obviously help guide them down the path, but we move on to different stations about every 10-15 minutes, and there's about 5 of them. And then on the way back, you'll get to hear the stories of, like David said, the men and women that actually live the life, sharing those treacherous stories that, again, you really wouldn't hear otherwise. And I think that connecting those dots is really what makes the experience an experience versus a tour, because you're getting real life, non-scripted verbiage from people who have actually been the doers.
So true. Serena, they tell you about their history on the open waters. And this boat in particular has such history. I mean, I love every part of knowing how you reconfigured it. And I think it happened twice, right?
well, yeah, there's a couple different situations where that boat should not be here. 3 I know of. It was on the Deadliest Catch TV show. Season 2 took a massive rogue wave that knocked the Aleutian Ballad on its side. Once that happened, and I'd been dreaming about, like I said, when I saw those cruise ships, it was 10 years of dreaming about that. And I'd saved all the money. And then after that massive wave knocked the boat over on TV, I said, now's the time. Rip this boat apart. We spent 3 times more money converting that boat into a tour boat than I paid for the damn thing. And so we spared no expense on that end. And, Maddie said the wildlife up there in Alaska. Oh my God, the scenery. Uh, a lot of times we go on a vacation, on a tour, we think, okay, what are we going to see? Well, we get to see it. You get to touch it. You get to feel it. And you get those stories. And, I've had every single one of our guys and gals on board the boat has a story. I don't know why it is, but if when you go to the Bering Sea, you go to the ocean and you spend your life out there and you continually go back, you have stories. And we love the stories to bring it out of these guys. I got my guys on the boat one day and I had a captain. I said, well, you got to tell your story. He says, I don't really have a story. I said, come on. Hey, Terry, what about the time you sank that boat? He's up in Alaska. He sinks a boat. His 2 best friends are on the boat. They're in the water. And they're a half a mile from shore, and the tide's taking them offshore, and they're floating. And one of the kids couldn't swim, and they talked about it. They decided not to leave Mark alone, just to hold on to the buoy ball and the 2 gas cans they had, and they floated offshore. And I said, Terry, what happened? What? And I'm thinking to myself, how did you survive this? He said, well, out of the distance came a boat. But I said, what do you mean came a boat? Well, a gillnet, a salmon boat was running, and a small boat saw us and came over and looked down and said, how's the water, boys? They saved our lives that day. And I talked to Terry about it. I said, Terry, what else happened that day? He said, well, when we went in the water, I knew we were dead. I killed my 2 best friends. And he said, I'm 21 years old. I never prayed a day in my life. And I said, God, save us. And that's when that little boat came. So you tell me, I don't know. I just tell these guys to
So
tell the
moving.
truth,
Whoa.
you know.
Oh,
And
yeah.
out of nowhere, they got saved. I mean, yeah, my story, Captain Ron's story.
Yeah, it's almost like I feel like fisherman is almost like Huck Finn and Tom Sawyer. It's just such a life of adventure that is very disconnected from the real world mainland. And that's, I think, one of the most beautiful things that we do is we get to bring those two worlds together to where the general public understands a whole industry that's like a food industry, like farming, and bringing guys out of the Bering Sea back into reality where this is what the mainland world is like, because it is a very big disconnect.
Yeah. And it's the guest, you guys. It's you guys when you come with us that inspire us to the people in the wheelchairs. You know, the people with their families, it doesn't matter if you're blind or if you're battling cancer and you don't have any hair. You might have been in the war, you don't have legs, and they come. And I used to be the shyest kid in high school. I never talked to anybody, but they have changed me. Today, it's like, what happened? And then you get these people and you bring them out with you and they touch your heart and you give them everything you got. And no longer will I not come up to somebody and say, hey, man, what happened? Or, you know, what's going on? The little lady from Ohio, Maddie. We just got up to Alaska, our second week of doing tours. Now, remember, we were struggling. We didn't have any cruise ship support. So here comes a lady in a wheelchair. She doesn't have any hair, and she parks over here. And her husband, he wanted to talk to us, so he grabbed a hold of us. And he pulled us up by the king crab launcher. He says, boys, I need to tell you something. He said, my wife's dream has always been to come here to Alaska, and that's why we're here. He walked over and never said another word and sat down. And I looked at my guys and I said, let's go. You know, we shared the history of the boat. We hauled those hooks. We caught fish. We showed her fish. She held fish. We pulled into the eagles. We got 50 bald eagles dive bombing right over her head to grab fish off the top of the water that we're throwing. We haul the crabs. We catch everything, the octopus, all the critters on the way into town. A pot of killer whales was off to the side. Well, the big bull killer whale, you know, with the fin about 5 feet tall out of the water,
Yeah.
he swam up next to the boat. And now this doggone whale is pushing on the boat. You guys are hanging over the side with your camera, taking pictures. And I'm driving that day and I'm thinking to myself, no, that is Alaska. You never know when you're going to see it. And then it dawned on me. We're not in SeaWorld. That is a wild killer whale. You guys step back a little bit, you know. And
Yeah.
and they stepped back. We got into the dock. And like I said, I've been a fisherman for 45 years. I've never shed one tear one day in my life. And I went over to pick her up in that chair to take her down that gangway, and she was crying, and I lost it. So here I am. I'm going down the gangway. One of my big guys at the bottom, he's standing there. He sees me crying. She's crying. And he looks up. He says, what happened? What went wrong? That little lady got up out of that wheelchair and gave that man the biggest hug I've ever seen in my life. She says, Sonny, nothing went wrong today. I just want to tell you I haven't felt this much alive in a long time. That's the gift that we get every day from our guests, and we give it back as much as we can. I often say we get 10 times more than our guests give us, but it's a reciprocal thing. And so every single day we're excited to go up that dock to greet the people from around the world, take them out with us. And that's the Bering Sea Crab Fisherman's Tour.
Unbelievable. I am so moved. I mean, it's just so moving. It's life. It's like life force, energy. It's incredible. I feel it. It's so powerful.
I'm telling you. I don't know what happened. I mean, fishing, you had to be passionate. Whatever job you do, the real estate you guys do, the dreams that you give to people, you know, finding that dream home, that dream piece of property where they can live their lives out, you know, live their lives out. And to be able to give that to somebody is phenomenal. I can only imagine what you do is what we do is we try to build those dreams and give them every single day.
That's what we're talking about.
So, question: how do you balance the demands of running a tour with your passion for fishing?
Well, some people call it a love-hate relationship. I'm 65 years old now, and multiple boats, years. I mean, I used to be gone 11 months a year fishing. My wife took care of everything. The kids' house had broken down this, had broken down that, and now today, the transition really took over when we took you guys that first day back in 2007. It was July 25 of 2007, our first tour. Since that day, my passion went from going out and catching it and selling it to delivering the dream of Alaska to everybody. Because I knew years of being out there on that water. I was fascinated at what we saw, unpredictable as it was at times. But then to be able to give that to people every single day, that that set it apart. And so I love doing the excursions. I'll do them as long as I can, as long as Maddie will have me on the boat.
Beautiful. So, okay, can we talk about Deadliest Catch for a minute? How has it influenced the public perception of crabbing and your lifestyle?
Deadliest catch. For years, I can remember distinctly sitting in the wheelhouse, and we're fishing in hurricane force storms. I mean, it's blowing 100 miles an hour. My guys are on deck. We're fishing in 50-foot seas. I'm watching waves. I'm on pins and needles. The crab pots are coming over the side. They're completely loaded. We're plugging the boat, and I'm thinking to myself, why is nobody filming this? I am sitting up here with the window right here, looking at all this stuff.
Yes.
Why are they not filming this? And I'll be darned if it wasn't just about a year after that, a buddy got them to come out to Dutch Harbor. They did a called
Like a
Deadliest
trial.
Seasons with Rick Messich on the Fierce Contender or Fierce Allegiance, and then from that day on, the public is more aware of where their crabs come from and how they're caught. Because when you're out there in the ocean, 100, 200 miles from nowhere, you don't go in. There's no islands out in the middle of the Bering Sea except St. Paul and St. George, really. Uh, you stay out there, and we fished, and it was competitive. So you take 270 king crab boats in a competitive environment for a quota. Every year they determine how many crabs are out there, and then they set the quota. And when the gun goes off, you give it everything you have to catch that quota. Now they did change that nowadays. It's now a quota system. We got issued quota based on our history, so we don't have to fish the hurricane force storms, but nonetheless, we're still out there in them. We're still fishing adverse conditions. I mean, that wave that the Aleutian Ballad took on season 2 that knocked the boat over, that could happen at any time.
But I think that that's actually what makes the excursion so unique, and it's just a one of a kind because, like I said, the Aleutian Ballad has its own history, but that wave happened, and that was really the catalyst for Deadliest Catch. Once the boat took the wave, and that was, to this day, it's still the most requested film clip of like their whole entire existence. That really put Deadliest Catch on the map, which then said, okay, yes, we now that this massive TV show is bringing to life the educational side of crab fishing. Let's bring in now like the personal side, and that's what I enjoy about the excursion so much. Is it's so unpredictable. It's not scripted. We rotate our crew to give it a variety. But anytime you're out on the water, that's when you're gonna see Alaska. I think that the water tours are the best excursions versus the land because you have chances to see what lives above and below the water, where that we're really the only excursion that offers that.
Yeah, I could see that. How could the listeners support or get involved in learning more about the crabbing industry or Alaskan seafood?
You can Google Alaska seafood. There's lots of companies, that talk about the sustainability of seafood and Alaska seafood in particular.
I would agree. Alaska has the best fishing models worldwide. So I always like to tell people, please go do some research and understand where your food is coming from and the practices that go behind it to give you the best quality, but also the most sustainable resource.
Incredible.
Yeah, a lot of people have the perception that fishing is going down, that the oceans are getting depleted, and yes, our crab stocks have collapsed in the Bering Sea, but that's also an environmental change. The water's warmed up in the Bering Sea, and when that happened, codfish from the Pacific Ocean swam through the islands into the Bering Sea and they ate our baby crabs. So it's kind of an environmental thing. And then every year quotas are set in Alaska.
Hmm.
There you can only catch a certain percentage. So when we go crabbing, for example, we used to only be able to catch like 15% of the legal males. And and that in and of itself is sustainable because every year you have more males coming up to fill in for the ones that you're taking. The other ones get older. But sustainability is a big one. And in Alaska, the salmon. I mean, people used to think, gosh, we're catching all these salmon. Well, salmon come back to Alaska in these rivers. If you put too many salmon up a river, they will wash out the eggs of the other ones. So it's important to harvest a lot of those salmon. In fact, probably 80% of them before they get into the river because you over escape it and it harms the run. And a lot of people don't understand the intricacies of how to have a sustainable fishery. So millions and millions of fish are coming back to Alaska because of the practices.
So what's next for you guys? Tell us what's next for the tour. Anything new coming up?
We are just looking forward to getting back with our crew and getting back with the guests. I mean, the one thing that I think keeps us going is all of like the reviews and stuff, because that's our way of hearing from the guests that came, and even like yourself, like I said, if I remember most all the people that come with us because we get to spend such an intimate time with the guests that do come with us, and that I think gets us through the winter and makes us look forward to the next season to come.
What is your season? Tell everyone.
Our season is April 17th through October 10th this year. And it's roughly about that every year. They're trying to kind of expand it a little bit, which is nice.
And Maddie touched a little bit on the reviews. So if you have any questions or what the experiences entail, go to Google reviews. Last summer we had over 900 five-star reviews. Read the reviews of families. We get the wife under protest a lot coming because she doesn't want to go out on this damn fishing boat. Well, it is a fishing boat, but it's not really a fishing boat. Because by the time we get back in and you show her, she gets to touch it, and you give her that emotional touch, she's like, oh my God, was I wrong? And so the reviews you talk about, and then this morning we were talking about the cruise lines because our tours offered on all the major cruise lines. And we were talking about the cruise line companies that sell us the best. They sell us the best because they edify the excursion. They tell their guests what they need to do because let's be honest, when you're going on a vacation somewhere in the world, what do we do? How do we know?
We didn't know what to do. We were looking at this book, turning the pages. We had no clue. Thank goodness this gentleman told us, "Oh, I went on this excursion last week. It was by far the best excursion I've been on, and he's on the cruise." So I was like, "Okay, we're going for that one."
He works on the cruise ship and he goes around the world and he told you this is the one you need to do for your family, right?
Yeah.
We're so lucky that he shared that.
My wife was like, "Really? I don't think so." And let me tell you, she'd be the first one running on your ship right today.
Yeah, like I said, it offers something for everybody. I mean, for the kids, it's very interactive, and it's like a, you know, live aquarium. And for the parents, I mean, I think it's cool to see your kids enjoying something that's so unique, but also the stories that are being told, parents can relate to the message or experiences, stuff like that. And then, I mean, you get 3 hours of unlimited scenery, content creation, whatever you want. Like I said, that we do on our side, our structure, but at no point is any guest confined to their seat and we say, okay, sit down and listen to us. If you want to go have your own moment, please do. And I think that that's a really beautiful thing, because that's what we offer that other excursions don't.
And you guys are so smart. You guys have a shop on board, so you could get drinks and food. I mean, you covered all the bases. That was perfect.
We got the best red king crab in all of Alaska. If you want to come on board the boat, we serve it the way we love to eat it. It melts in your mouth and do all that. And one more thing about the excursion itself. With all that wildlife and all the stations that we have, the crab pot stations, octopus, prawns, long line, dungeness, it doesn't matter. We will never get to all the stations that we have on this excursion. The key to that is that when there's whales bubble feeding right next to the boat, we're going to go over and we're going to sit right next to those whales. Or there might be a pod of killer whales. There might be a bunch of sea lions feeding on salmon right there. Whatever it is that we're going to go do, we have those options to do. And the key to our excursion, and I'll say this, is the only place in the world that you're going to get to experience this excursion. We're on a native island, and the island is Annette Island. It belongs to the Tsimshian Native Indians of Alaska. They, with our joint venture, have allowed us inside their magic waters to perform this excursion. So we are in a partnership with them to give them
Beautiful.
give everybody that you cannot duplicate anywhere else.
Right. This is really one of a kind. This opportunity. It's a money can't buy prize because you have the connection. So it's fantastic.
That's a story all by itself.
How can people book with you and find you guys?
Our website is it's got our tickets. It's alaskacrabtour.com. You can find us on Google anywhere. If you're with your cruise ship, you can book through there. There's other third parties. We try and just get it out so that whatever the guest prefers to book through, they have the option to make their own choice. But like we've said, this is a one-of-a-kind excursion, and tickets do sell out. So we've been trying to tell people, please get your tickets early, because last year and the year before, it's devastating for us to tell people, okay, you're on the wait list, but you have to stand and wait on the dock, and then you hope that you can take them, and then you have to leave them. That is very painful.
Wow.
Thank you so much, Dave and Madison, for coming on our show and joining the Always in Escrow podcast. It was an absolute pleasure having you both here, hearing your insights. Your stories are incredibly inspiring, and we're grateful for the opportunity to share them with our listeners. We are wishing you continued success as you navigate this adventurous journey ahead. Here's to all good things in 2025.